guys, let's talk about hair today and hair color. We're gonna analyze some cases when women go darker and what it does to their facial features. Some women can't even imagine how amazing they might look with darker hair color. It can be just slightly darker than their natural hair color. So in my opinion, everyone who has dark hair naturally is gonna look great with dark hair, especially women with dark eyes. They can't go wrong with that. But when we say dark hair or brown hair, we don't mean just one brown color. There are so many different tones, undertones, certain darkness or lightness that give you a very certain color. There are actually hundreds of different kinds of brown hair. Like you can see on this picture, both hairs are brown. They're quite dark, especially if we compare it to her skin, but they're so different. On the right, there's a little bit mocha rosy brown, lighter shade, and on the left, it's quite dark. It's quite close to black color. I think both of them look great on her because her eyes and her brows can pull that off. They kind of give us a hint that she is about that range naturally. Lighter color is just blending her facial features a little bit more, and dark color is making everything a bit more tight looking. Now, what kind of brown hair exists? Let's just categorize it very roughly, like there can be warmer brown and cooler brown. And this is not just warm or just cool, it's the scale. It's always a gradient. It can be just very warm, then a little bit more neutral, then a bit cooler and very cool. And these are the lighter shades of brown. But brown can be darker, so it also can be a little bit warmer and then more neutral and then a little bit more cool. And dark brown color is not same as black. Black normally looks very solid and almost doesn't reflect light as much as brown hair does. Brown hair has different dimensions. It has very beautiful tendency to reflect two colors on the sun, golden and blue, especially if it's natural hair color. Sometimes artificial hair color too, but it depends on a hair dye that you use. Normally it's not the case with artificial hair dye. But when your hair is natural and you go out on the sun, it seems like light goes through your hair a little bit, as if your hair is not solid color, but it's kind of transparent, made of very dark glass, so you kind of can see through it a little bit. And this is what is making this color very, very beautiful and very soft and multi-dimensional. So when we talk about women going darker, of course, this is the picture that you might imagine in your head, but this is absolutely not what I mean. Here you can see very intense change. And you might say, oh, she looks awful with dark hair. No, it's not that it's dark hair. It's that specific depth of color, which is quite close to black, maybe even black, and the intensity, which is very important to understand, especially how it combines with your personal coloration. It's very good to remember what you were born with and choose the shade of a brown that would be a little bit closer to you. Cameron Diaz is definitely quite light naturally. So for her, that black hair is just too hard. Maybe if she would go for that cooler brown color, that would be a little bit lighter on the scale, that would look already softer on her. There are also women who look great with contrasted, intense colors. And they don't look as good with medium shades, with something in the middle that can make them look more tired and not all together, especially if we talk about old-fashioned coloring techniques. These look cheap today for sure, even if your coloration can pull that off. Now, this is a good example when both hair colors kind of work. I think she looks good with this golden blonde because her skin is quite golden and it can pull that off. At least on this picture. I didn't see her in other pictures. Maybe it's not as working on her. And you can see this brown color. Maybe it's even not her natural hair color. You know, it works and it's not extremely dark. So women with medium warm coloration, they normally don't look quite good with whether very platinum blonde or very dark black hair, but they look amazing with everything in the range of a caramel hair colors, starting from light brown, medium brown, different shades of brown. Maybe it can be warmer or cooler sometimes. They can pull that off normally. And up to medium blondes, warm blondes, and different kinds of balayages. Now, of course, one thing to keep in mind is when you're getting darker, your brows have to change and you probably will feel like you need a bit more makeup. Now, if you feel like you need just a little bit more makeup, that's good because it's a normal thing. You kind of want to support a little bit your darker hair. It definitely looks a bit heavier for you, so it's great. Now, if you feel like you have to do a lot of unnatural things, then probably this hair is a little bit too dark for you. You probably want to go for a slightly lighter shade. Another good thing to keep in mind, it's quite hard to go back to blonde after you went darker. It's much easier to go darker if you're blonde, unless you're platinum blonde. If you're platinum blonde, then you have to first color your hair with some red pigments or something orangey and then go with dark hair. Otherwise, you will end up with green hair. But I explain all that thing, and actually I'll open up one secret about hair color, what it actually is. So when you watch that video, I'm gonna leave the link down below, you will understand everything about hair coloring. So I really recommend you to watch it. Now, sometimes there are women who seem like looking good with any hair color and haircut. And it's yes and no. First of all, makeup, lighting, everything has to be kind of perfect. So my idea is for a photo session, you can actually pull off almost any haircut and hair color. Now, do you wake up in the morning with that? It's a good question. You might start feeling you have some problems with that if your skin is very, very light, especially if it has some blemishes or veins are seen, and then it has some bluish or greenish undertones sometimes in that skin, like we say, the skin that didn't see sun for a while. Then you really gotta make sure that the tone of your darker hair really is not exaggerating that blemishes. Also, another good thing to keep in mind when you're watching all those pictures, when you are being inspired by those pictures, the skin color also matters. Sometimes we get tanned, sometimes we're not tanned. Some women with lighter skin in winter, they get really, really pale. Sometimes they have this pink skin, so their skin looks cooler. So different kinds of warm tones when they are blonde or on their brown hair can really exaggerate that redness, that pinkishness, and sometimes greenishness if you have slightly olive skin. So still, I would judge probably seeing the person in front of me without any makeup on a natural light, and this is when we can say 100% picture is still a picture. There are loads of additional things there, and sometimes we just can't judge. Picture can show us amazing results. Another little hack that sometimes some people do, they make the before picture is kind of untidy, no makeup, hair is not styled, it's dry, it's slightly tousled, but I have my imagination, so I can kind of flip these pictures in my head and kind of imagine that in before picture she would have darker hair, but she would not have any makeup and her hair would look dry and slightly untidy. I can definitely imagine her with this golden hair on the right. If the hair is shiny, healthy looking, moisturized with the same makeup, everybody would say, oh yeah, she looks much better with blonde. You know what I mean? Also, sometimes for that kind of pictures, they change the lighting, which is also crucial. On this picture, I like that it's kind of same environment, like same lighting. At least we can compare it more realistically. And another thing to remember, you don't look good with just one hair color. It can be loads of multiple hair colors. It can be a certain range of darker colors that you would look amazing with and quite natural. And there can also be blonde colors that you would look great with, but it should be like a certain blonde. Different angle of a face also is making it harder for us to compare before and after. So preferably before and after pictures should be made exactly in the same room. And preferably, that's how I would do that with the same makeup. I think it's more fair because in this case, we will only evaluate the hair color and how it influences on the girl. The background, yes, it should be quite plain and same clothes. Also preferably neutral color like white, black, nude, gray, or something like that. Nothing pink or green or blue because these colors are also interfering into our perception of the woman. We don't perceive her as just hair. No, we perceive her head to toe always, or at least everything that we see on the picture, including the expression of her face, if she's happy or not happy. That also matters. So in this picture, yeah, I can definitely see that this brown color looks stunning on her, and I'm not a big fan of this quite brassy yellow hair, especially with orangey roots, and also when they're not styled, they look quite dry and not healthy. So it's always important to have healthy looking hair if you can make it. Now, warm and cool, it's quite huge subject, and sometimes there are women with slightly oliveness in their skin, a little bit green tint in their skin. So sometimes when they go for blonde or brassy blonde, yellowish blonde, or very warm blonde, it can accentuate that green undertone in their skin. Or blue. Some girls who have very light skin, they have a little bit of that blue undertone, but we don't see it unless we combine it with something like this very brassy yellow blonde hair, so she becomes pale and slightly green on her face. As soon as she goes for that medium brown, especially if it's slightly on a cooler side, because normally when women have this olive undertone or blue undertone, they are probably a little bit cooler in coloration. So this medium brown with cool undertone looks amazing on them, and their skin becomes peachy color or very, very healthy beige color, which is very interesting. Many things also depend on your body type. Another thing is your makeup and how your skin looks. Your skin and brows is one of the most important things, and I talk about this in so many of my videos. These 3 basic things for our beauty is skin, brows, and hair. And hair includes hairstyle, haircut, and hair color. If these 3 things are in, it's not that important what kind of makeup you wear and what kind of clothes you wear. You can shine pretty much anything, any simple things, I mean. Also, some women have that structure of a face that they don't look good with balayages. For example, they just look better with clean hair colors, and whenever she's doing that very clean and rich hair color, she is good, especially if she looks healthy, if it's styled good, if she has good picture, good lighting, and everything else like on these 4 pictures. I like her in each of these pictures. I think she looks very, very cute. But it's not just hair influences on that. All these 4 pictures have amazing front lighting on her face, so we don't see any harsh lines, spots, unwanted shadows. She has very beautiful classic makeup. Very well done. Her brows are very well done. Her hairstyle is very well done, so it looks very healthy. It's very shiny. The tones of those hairs is very beautiful too. What would be a good test for me is to see her just in the morning without any makeup on a natural light. I think then we would see which of these hair colors just looks a bit better for her. But I can tell you what would be not for her is balayage, dirty balayage, different kinds of dull and muted toners, because she is definitely very bright in coloration and her eyes are very bright. Something dull, something muted and grayish or ashy would just mute her down very much. As one of the examples, I wanted to show you Emily Blunt. She did change her hair color many times, and she has many pictures also, so we would be able to compare. So I think this is her natural hair color, at least this is the earliest picture I could find of her. So she's kind of that neutral, medium ashy blonde color. I even can't say it's too cool. I think it's more neutral. Everybody in internet says that she is true summer. That means that she looks her best in slightly muted, cool tones. And we're gonna see how she changed her color over the years. Sometimes she would go for that brassy yellow tone. And I told you many times that I'm not a big fan of this brassy yellow tone, and brassy yellow tone is not same as warm blonde. Normally warm blonde looks different. Brassy yellow doesn't have any blue in it, and it's not as shining as warm blonde. It normally looks like dried grass, quite matte and untidy, and normally it brings some unwanted undertones in our skins, in many skin tones, especially for women who have slightly green undertone. So I think this is just way too warm for her. But blonde hair color, so as brown hair color, can be so different. So here we can see it's not platinum yet, it has this warm yellowish base, but it's toned into more calm beige ashy blonde. I like this much better on her, but in my viewpoint it's not the best thing for her. Another reason for that, and it's not just coloration. If you're subscribed to my channel for a long time, you know how much I love Kibbe body types, so image identities. So we have 10 body types, and each woman is a character, and they are built differently, and their facial features and the lines of their bodies, even how tall they are, how small they are, all that can influence on colors too, and on color techniques that some hairstylists use for your hair. David Kibbe himself didn't type her. It appeared to be that she was typed by some people in internet as soft classic, and for now I still agree with this. I do think that she is closest to soft classic. So when soft classics go for balayage hair color or highlights, especially when the contrast between the roots and the ends is quite big, and also their roots are darker, their brows are darker, their ends of their hair are lighter, normally it gives them untidy appearance as opposed to healthy appearance. And this is their biggest difference with naturals, soft naturals, flamboyant naturals. Naturals look amazing in that kind of a hair color. On contrary, they look kind of plastic and not maybe expensive enough even with overall color, especially if it's platinum or black or bright orangey color, something artificial. But on classics, they look much better with overall hair color. They just look cleaner. So those highlights or lowlights or that balayage, all that is reading as something dirty, noisy for them. I have loads of videos about hair colors for the body types, so if you're new, I'm gonna leave the links on some of them down below. So in case of Emily Blunt, I think this is one of the things that also is influencing on her look and on the type of blonde that she's going for. Makeup matters a lot as well. Now here I love this blonde better. Even though it's slightly balayaged, the contrast is not that big. It still looks shiny, very healthy. It looks like dark blonde, looks very close to her natural hair color. So I think it makes her skin look very pink and healthy. Now we all probably remember her in that movie. If she's true summer, then this hair color is just furthest for them because it's warm, intense, and dark. It's opposite to what they would look good in. Cool, muted, and maybe slightly lighter or not as intense. Another thing that I already mentioned before, we are always changing. So we can get a bit more tan or less tan. When we get more tan, even women with more cool coloration, they get a little bit warmer so they can pull off a bit warmer shades in their hair, in their clothes, and in their makeup. For example, here on the right, she has darker skin, so she can pull off that slightly yellow blonde. Still a little bit too yellow for her, but I think she can pull that off a little bit better than on the left. On the left, she's just very pale and it's kind of sucking all the life out of her, that kind of a hair color. And also that hairstyle. Normally, that kind of hair happens when you didn't cut your hair for a long time. So you have this top layer of the hair, which is just flies out a little bit. Even if you try to style it or try to have waves on your hair, it normally looks like that. Especially for classics, it's a huge no-no. Now here, she's also blonde, but she has much ashier blonde, much ashier roots. Even though she has highlights, we don't read it as highlights because it's very small portions of the hair that is highlighted. So it blends with lowlights pretty evenly. So we kind of perceive this hair is just ashy blonde. And I think that blonde is already much better for her. We can see whites in her eyes. Her eyes are very blue. I like this beautiful makeup on her. Now let's look at her going darker. And when she's going darker, especially darker than her natural hair color, this is what happens. First of all, she starts feeling the need to make her makeup darker. But also what happens is that hair looks flat and a bit too intense and separate from her, as if it's a wig. So sometimes that happens and it becomes a little bit too heavy for the face. And this is when it's very important to see the difference between undertones and different levels of lightness. Because sometimes to go a little bit lighter than that can already change the whole situation for you. Like here, when she has this neutral medium brown hair color. I love this so much on her. With some light it reflects blue, on some light it reflects slightly golden, but it's not very warm and it's not very cool. Maybe it's a little bit on the cooler side, yeah, but our hair color, again, it's changing all the time, and also it depends on the skin color. If skin is more yellow, then if the hair is ashy, it looks a bit more ashy and stuff like that. So cameras also adjust its coloration, and many things influence on the way how we look at her. But here she even doesn't have any makeup and she looks fine with that. And I love this hair color on her very much. And again, if we look at this balayage on her, color wise, it kind of suits to her. It suits to true summers. I know some true summers who are naturals, for example, they look amazing with that kind of balayage. But I think as far as she's soft classic, she is not looking her best with that kind of balayage with lighter ends, even though the tone of the hair is perfect for her, so sometimes this is what happens. Now the last picture of her that I wanted to discuss is this one. It's slightly Jennifer Lopez kind of a look. First of all, the makeup is not very usual for her. Probably had different kind of makeup artist for this one. She's more like a luxury bombshell hero rather than soft classic. But I love this look as a combination with hairstyle. I like that she has this very bright, chunky light pieces by the face. I love the makeup and you can see that it's quite warm, but what I can tell you is probably she got very very tanned. So that's why here she looks amazing. But if she had her skin very, very pink, very light, like winter skin, she would not look as good with this kind of look. So sometimes we should also see how it suits to our season. Now, of course, if we talk about women with darker coloration, dark eyes, dark brows, naturally dark hair, sometimes when they go blonde, they don't go light enough. So they go to that stage where their blonde is just slightly orangey. So we can see here how beautifully that brown color matches her eyes. It's probably same color as her eyes. And by the way, if you have brown eyes, very dark brown, lighter brown, or up to hazel and light brown, you can't go wrong with hair color that is matching your eyes. Sometimes if your eyes are a little bit on a lighter side, they're a little bit more hazel and you go for too dark hair color, it's not bad. It's just your eyes will look slightly more like a glass, empty. Again, nothing bad with that. Sometimes just accentuate your lash line a little bit more with black pencil or dark brown pencil and you're good to go. You won't feel overpowered with this darker hair. Sometimes if your eyes are very warm, almost yellow or amber eyes, so sometimes when they go for black hair, normally it really looks like a wig on them because everything they have to go for is maybe that caramel hair range. If they still want to go for dark hair, better stick to brown colors but not blacks, or have some money piece by the face that is lighter just to kind of support the eyes so they would not feel empty. Now, if we have this summary, what does dark hair do to us that blonde hair is not doing to us? Basically, it is accentuating the outline of our face and our facial features. This is the effect of the reflector. You probably have seen in professional studios when they're filming someone, they have this kind of silver screens. They're not producing light, but they are reflecting light. Then this light, if it's reflected from the sides of you, it can lighten all the shadows on your face. Normally, what shadows on the faces we have? Under chin, under jawline, on the sides of our faces, by the ears, above the eyes, eye crease, on the sides of the nose, and cheekbones. So any light hair works as a reflector. So it reflects light and blends some of the shadows on your face. So your outline of your face is not that visible anymore. We just don't pay attention on that. It's kind of blended. The shadows on the sides of your nose are not as intense either. So we kind of can't read very much the nose shape. Definition is making us sometimes look more tight, sometimes more sleek, sometimes more chiseled, sometimes more recognizable, and a little bit more dramatic. So it just depends on what you want to go for and what is more suitable for your particular face. Some women, they just feel like blonde is just enough to blend some of the shadows on their faces that they don't like, and they're adding their own definition for them. A little bit of makeup, a little bit of blush, some lipstick, and some women, on contrary, they feel absolutely pale with blonde, and they need those shadows. They need that support because sometimes they feel like they look tired or very pale or sick with that light hair color. And it doesn't depend on age for sure. So to see that, I'm gonna make the picture very, very small. Now close your eyes for a second and then open your eyes and look at this picture that I just made small. You probably will be able to see a little bit more. The dark hair is creating more definition. We can see the facial features more, and light hair is blending the facial features. We still can see eyes, some brows, but everything is kind of a bit more blended and lightened, which again is not good and not bad. It just depends. Same with this picture. You can see a bit more definition, more chiseled. We can see shadows more, and we can actually tell what is the shape of her face is. And when she's blonde, we don't see same face shape. It's a little bit more blended and undefinite. And the last thing that I wanted to discuss today is when women go gray, naturally, many of them nowadays embrace this gray hair color. And I love this, and this is amazing. Actually, I'm going to prepare a separate video about gray hair. It's like a huge subject and absolutely different from today's subject. I still know some women who didn't gray enough yet, so they feel like when they gray more, they will let their gray hair grow. Once they grayed just a little bit, there's no point for them to grow out their gray hair. So they want to kind of keep that brown hair color, which is great. Now, as woman ages, she becomes a little bit more ashy and light in coloration. her brows, her eyes, her eye color, her skin color, everything is kind of slightly lighter, especially when a woman has gray hair. Yeah, everything kind of lightens. So for example, if naturally she used to have very dark brown hair, if she still wants to go for dark hair, she probably wants to go for a shade or two lighter than her natural hair color, because as she ages, her skin color, her brow color, her eye color is also changing a little bit. It's getting a bit lighter. So for her, that would be absolutely perfect thing. If she still wants to keep her hair darker, if she feels like she loves that, she has her makeup that fits to that image, or her clothes that is also fitting to that brown hair color, I think it's amazing. Yeah, just make your brown color a couple of shades lighter than your natural hair color used to be, and then this is gonna make you feel so fresh and very, very healthy. Just a little tip. All right, that's it. I hope that was interesting. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Let me know which videos would you like to see next from me, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.